morning, good afternoon, good evening. This video of Ramaphosa warning Zimbabwe about all these political machinations of trying to tamper with the constitution, to increase MNANGAGWA stay in office, and the whole problem of Zimbabwe rigging elections raises really important issues. According to this video clip produced by Inside Africa Network, if this is true, I think it's more than a game changer. This is game over for ZANU-PF. In this video clip, they list 7 different items that South Africa's President Ramaphosa raised. And I think we'll play them one by one and discuss them and discuss their implications. And to the listeners there, if you are free to, if you want to join us, you're free to do so. And join us on the link that we'll post to you at the bottom. There we are, that we are showing you there. And it's available on YouTube as well. So you can copy it from there. And we'd like to hear your opinion. We'll start by playing the video, first part of it. Thank you.
Ramaphosa issues final warning to Zimbabwe. SADC shocked, reported by Takura Shoko, Inside Africa Network. Good day, Southern Africa. Good day, Zimbabwe. This is Takura Shoko with Inside Africa Network. And today we go straight into a story shaking the foundations of regional politics. A story that insiders say has left SADC leaders stunned, diplomatic channels buzzing, and State House in Harare scrambling to redefine its next move. We are talking about a warning. Not a loud one, not a public one, but a firm final message delivered quietly by South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa during a secret leaders-only SADC consultation held last week. A message aimed directly at Zimbabwe's political direction. A message urging Harare to respect constitutional limits. A message that said in polite diplomatic language that Southern Africa will not tolerate a return to lifetime rulers disguised as presidents. This is the story. Part 1. How we got here. Over the last few months, Zimbabwe's political climate has been boiling. Conversations about extending presidential terms to 2030 have grown louder. Senior ZANU-PF officials have been dropping hints. Some state media voices flirted with the idea, and a few individuals online even suggested Naga was too intelligent and too experienced to step down.
This video
was created by AI. With AI, you can create any character you want.
Real life.
That is where the problem began. SADC leaders have been watching closely, because Zimbabwe is not an island. When Zimbabwe suffers, the region suffers. When Zimbabwe's politics go off balance, migration increases, borders tighten, economies shake, and regional development slows down. So when whispers of a 2030 extension reached Pretoria, Gaborone, Windhoek, and Lusaka, the Democratic bloc inside ADC stepped in. According to multiple insiders who briefed us, a private meeting was called. Only 4 countries were involved: South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, and Zambia. The 4 most democratic voices in the region. They met quietly under the banner of governance renewal and regional stability. And Ramaphosa did not mince his message. Part 2. The warning that shocked the room. According to Inside...
We'll stop it there. I think some people have been questioning, is this authentic? Could this possibly happen? And my answer to that one is yes, because this is not the first time we've seen South Africa step in In 2008, following the blatant cheating and rigging of those elections, the same thing happened. It was South Africa who attended, who sent their own delegation to Harare to find out for themselves how those elections were rigged. And it was them, as a result of that, who decided that they were not going to give ZANU-PF political legitimacy, ending up with the 2008 to 2013 GNU. Welcome to the program, Ben. What do you think of this report?
Good day to you and good day to all viewers. I think a couple of weeks back, I mentioned that Cyril Ramaphosa is the current SADC chair after taking over from, I think, Mauritius, I think. And I got wind to say there was talk about Zimbabwe, and I think I shared it on this platform. But obviously, we all know these are closed door meetings. It has happened before, like you said, and it has happened, just after the 2023 election, where we all saw how President MNANGAGWA was shaken up and physically sweating when he was coming out of a SADC, extraordinary summit. And he was trying to do a lot of PR and all that. So as far as authenticity, I think it there's a good possibility that it actually happened. So yeah, I would give it a yes, it did happen.
Well, the other thing that should be said here is that even the 2008 GNU, or meeting that ended up with the GNU, that wasn't the first time. Many Zimbabweans will remember that elections up to that point, 2008, had never been free, fair, and credible. And in 2007, as the nation prepared for those new elections, the level of violence against the opposition went into overdrive. People in Zimbabwe will know or be familiar with the images of Morgan Tsvangirai with his face swollen, and Nelson Chamisa in a hospital bed after he'd been attacked and left for near dead. SADC leaders are the ones who put pressure on Mugabe and this ZANU-PF regime to implement many democratic reforms, which meant the 2008 elections were the nearest the country had ever got to free, fair, and credible elections. So this meeting here is not out of the ordinary. This has happened before. And people would go one step further and say it's about time to. The unfortunate reality for Zimbabwe is that the 2008 to 2013 GNU failed to implement even one token democratic reform. And it wasn't SADC's problem. Morgan Tsvangirai and company sold out. The truth must be said. And this left SADC leaders disappointed and rather disillusioned. The 2023 elections were not free, fair, and credible. SADC election observers, AU election observers said the same thing. But they could not go the extra mile and deny ZANU-PF political legitimacy because Nelson Chamisa managed to convince 2 million of his followers to participate in those flawed elections. As much as SADC felt helpless at that point, you cannot also run away from the fact that the political situation in Zimbabwe has continued to get worse and worse. And let's be honest, South Africa, as the dominant economic nation in SADC, has borne the brunt of that economic collapse across the Zambezi. It is widely believed that as many as 3 million Zimbabweans are in South Africa. The other day we were talking about the xenophobia attacks on foreigners, and mostly Zimbabweans, by South Africans. As the economy of South Africa starts to struggle, the local people have looked at Zimbabweans as the people who are taking the jobs from them, and hence causing this problem. But South Africa's ANC government have supported ZANU-PF. And now I think the penny has dropped. They realize the folly of doing so. So this report, to me, it does not come as a surprise at all. Let's just listen to the second part of the second point that is being raised here.
Leaders who attended the briefing, Ramaphosa reminded the room that Southern Africa cannot afford leaders who attempt to stretch presidential terms like elastic bands. He reportedly emphasized that no country of 16 million people can pretend that only one man is wise enough to govern forever. His message was simple. If we want a modern SADC region, then democracy must be defended. If we want stability, then constitutions must not be tampered with. If we want progress, then leadership must rotate. Botswana supported him instantly. Zambia echoed the message. Namibia backed it with concerns about transparency and corruption. Zimbabwe's representatives stayed quiet. One insider told us the silence felt heavy enough to cut with a knife. Ramaphosa reminded the meeting that Southern Africa escaped colonial kings. It cannot now create new political kings wearing suits and scarves. He spoke about transparency, accountability, and merit-based leadership. He insisted that the region must reward competence, not loyalty or patronage. Insiders say some members of Zimbabwe's delegation looked visibly uncomfortable. Part 3. YC is worried about Zimbabwe.
Ben, what do you think of that part 2?
I think this is a very powerful short paragraph that was just mentioned here. It's clear that particularly when it's Zimbabwe, in terms of undermining democracy, not only in Zimbabwe. I mean, look, they had a hand in the election in Mozambique, which led to a violent response from its citizens. We remember Zimbabwean nationalities, were given IDs from Mozambique just to go and vote in there. And these were ZANU-PF members. And it was for the whole world to see. So when it comes to undermining democracy. I think ZANU PF is right at the top there, if not above the likes of North Korea. They pretend democracy, but what they live is totally different. And I'm glad such stances are being brought forward, and to invite the likes of South Africa, Botswana, Namibia. I think this Zambia, obviously, these are countries that held their elections, and we that followed the elections, you didn't need to be there, but you could see the organization of whether you are ruling party, opposition, minority. Everybody was doing their business within one big hole, and at the end, everybody was in agreement to whatever is happening or has happened. Then, where you go across Zimbabwe, you find people in rural areas, they had to to go with their headmen, their chiefs, and all that, and they had FARs, that they had to pass through, giving them their name to mark a register that you have gone and voted, and on your way back, it was clear as daylight that there was intimidation. And at the end, we got the SADC report. The SADC report was the clear reflection of what was happening. And the SADC report condemned those elections as illegal and flawed. They went as far as saying that it was a violation of the Constitution. And this is exactly what the president of South Africa has said. You guys are now finding it easy or too easy to violate the Constitution. A Constitution is a sacred document. You just don't tamper with it every single day just to suit your own, your own ends. And I really appreciate that, finally SADC has called Zimbabwe again to say, no. I think we have been giving you so much slack. You've been getting away with so much, but it now affects us and our image as SADC. And not only that, you are now causing problems across different borders, which is what you were talking about a few minutes back, to say, look at the amount of Zimbabweans that are in South Africa, Botswana, Namibia. Is that just everybody seems to be just going out? And here is ZANU PF saying we are almost an upper middle economy, and you're wondering who in their right mind would be running away from a beautiful thing, unless if it is a lie. So addressing it and telling it to their face, yes, they should be visibly worried, because they thought they could get away with it. And I'm glad this has happened. It's now again, in our excitement as Zimbabweans, we forget that SADC is doing its part. We have a bigger part to play. Let us not forget that.
I think the other important point I would like to bring up here is that as much as ANC government in South Africa has propped up ZANU PF, particularly in the period post Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela did not mince his words. He was disappointed with what Mugabe was doing, and he said so. The other leaders who have followed, they have treated at best the Harare regime with kid gloves. But when the country, South Africa, is beginning to show the kind of serious economic challenges that that country has been facing in the last 10 years, and the root cause of it is the failure to govern themselves. And in this case, the one country in the region that has helped them accelerate that situation was Zimbabwe. South Africa could no longer afford to ignore it. Right now, as we speak, President Cyril Ramaphosa is chairing the G20 in South Africa. You cannot expect to be on the international stage and yet be seen to be failing to manage your own people and those in your region. South Africa could no longer pretend that it was not propping up ZANU-PF. In the 2023 elections, it's on record. ANC government of President Cyril Ramaphosa and his high-powered delegation are only three of the three or so African heads of state who attended Emmerson Mnangagwa's inauguration. Because you cannot pretend the elections were free, fair, and credible when your own regional body has condemned them, when your own continental body has condemned them. And to make matters worse, when the dictator himself, Mnangagwa, has the arrogance of dismissing all those who had said the elections were not free, fair, and credible with utter contempt. Here is Mnangagwa speaking on the subject.
Vakatuka ZANU-PF kana ini ndonyanyisa kufara zvakanaka. Ukavona vavengi vakwashi kurumbidza nekuchikanganisa. Ukavona vachiti ZANU-PF yakaipa, farai. You are doing great things for your country. Hongu takaita maelections edu kuna vamwe vaitaura zvisina musoro zvikanzi maelections anafamba zvakanaka ndezvavo.
The truth of the matter is, ever since the 2023 elections, ZANU-PF has not implemented even one token reform to make sure 2028 elections are free, fair, and credible. So SADC is faced with the reality that ZANU-PF will blatantly rig the 2028 elections. Whether Mnangagwa manages to change the constitution so that he stays in power beyond 2028, to me, it's neither here or there. If ZANU-PF, the party, rigs that election, the country will be stuck with a dictator. Whether it be Mnangagwa or somebody else, to me, that is irrelevant. So the most important thing SADC have got to look at here is that Zimbabwe should not go into 2028 elections and the regime rigs those elections. And so calling ZANU PF to order at this point is reminding ZANU PF that what happened in 2023 and they got away with it cannot be repeated in 2028. And in this particular case, even if Zimbabwe's corrupt and incompetent and utterly useless opposition participate in those flawed elections and con millions of their followers to do the same. I think we are looking at a marker here where SADC is saying, if you go into 2028 elections with no reforms implemented, those elections will be condemned as flawed and illegitimate. And this time will not be interested in how the opposition participated, because we know the opposition in Zimbabwe is one of the most corrupt, incompetent, and utterly useless opposition in Africa.
No, for me, it is clear that SADC has come out to speak against what is happening in Zimbabwe. I mean, really, they cannot afford to keep quiet any longer. Zimbabwe is dragging everybody under, within the region. We have become a problem. I mean, look, in South Africa right now, they have a problem with this organization or group of individuals that call themselves Dudula. Right now, it's at an international stage, like you say, the G20, they're hosting it. And they had to, pepper spray them because they are right at the gates pushing their agenda. And their agenda is against foreigners like Zimbabweans. I mean, South Africa is not doing very well. And then you add 30 million people on top of that. And most of these do not pay taxes, do not pay, any benefit to South Africa. And they are there using, their health services. And they have a right to be angry. What we do not, accept is the killing, the going to that extent of burning people with tires and everything. But as citizens, they have the right to say, no, you are costing us this much, and we are taxpayers. You are getting away with absolutely everything free. So SADC is being burdened by Zimbabwe, and it was a long time overdue that they should, continue knocking at the door to say, your guys' 2028 elections are coming, and you cannot have a repeat of what happened, because we were given recommendations, and those recommendations have been shelved by ZANU PF, by the opposition. I mean, I wouldn't take, I wouldn't alter the words that you used to say our biggest problem is that we have the most shameful opposition ever. And unfortunately, a lot of people will disagree because they support a certain individual. But if you come to look, with clear eyes, with a clear mind, SADC has been trying to push us in the right direction. Guys, you guys need to fix your political environment. You need to fix the way how you conduct your elections. And funny enough, our opposition, they don't see anything wrong with the elections. They want to participate no matter how flawed it is. In fact, Chamisa actually claims he can win rigged elections. He's got, strategies, and they're bulletproof. He can out. It doesn't matter really if he rigs or not. I will beat him. And this is shameful because you're trying to convince somebody that is trying to help you. But no, you can never do this. You can never win rigged elections. We are here to help you to go about fighting a fair fight. And we are like, a patient that goes to a hospital and refuses treatment. A cow that is taken to the river but refuses to drink. That is who we are. So you now find that we have become a pain to ourselves. We are inflicting pain upon ourselves. We are perpetuating our own suffering. And the worst thing is, after an election, we go back to blame SADC. SADC is no good. They're a band of, brothers. It's the same group. Here they are. And in 2023, they did the same thing. 2008, they did the same thing. 2013, before the elections, they came out and told ZANU PF straight, no, you guys need to fix. And they told the opposition as well. This is where we do not want, to accept the truth. The opposition, the likes from the time of Morgan Changirai, they were told, they were warned, they were given an opportunity to fix the way how we conduct our elections. And they did not listen. We have to accept facts and truths as they are. That is the real truth, the history behind Zimbabwe and our failed state for 45 years. If we want to, whitewash it and make it look pretty, we are just lying to ourselves. And like you said, we have an incompetent, utterly useless opposition.
I just want to remind the listeners out there that if you want to listen to this full video, it's available on the YouTube, on the link shown. Or you can Google search it using the title shown at the bottom of your screen there. Ramaphosa issues final warning to Zimbabwe / SADC shocked. And it's from inside Africa Network. We'll listen to the fourth point from the video clip.
To understand the weight of this warning, you must understand the current Zimbabwean political landscape. Massive public frustration, rising corruption allegations, factional battles inside ZANU PF, the Chiwenga versus MNANGAGWA Cold War, economic collapse, unemployment, the military refusing political interference, and growing whispers of constitutional manipulation. SADC cannot sit back and watch Zimbabwe slide into uncertainty again.
I'm 42 and skip foundation. I don't do fillers and facial. How? I follow these face yoga exercises for 21 days and they changed my face. In a week, you'll feel it. In 2 weeks, you'll start to see it. In 3 weeks, others will.
Not after 2017. Not with regional elections coming. Not with investment at risk. South Africa alone carries the burden of millions of Zimbabwean migrants. A destabilized Zimbabwe puts pressure on hospitals, schools, policing, and jobs across the border. This is why Ramaphosa's voice carries weight. South Africa stabilizes the region. If South Africa sneezes, the region catches a cold. So his message to Zimbabwe was not personal. It was structural. It was strategic. It was regional survival. Part 4. Inside the secret SAC meeting. Our deep state analysts spoke to 2 insiders who confirmed the mood of the meeting was tense but diplomatic.
Thank you very much. There is no doubt that South Africa, in fact, if the truth be told, even before, during apartheid time, the apartheid regime was Ian Smith's greatest partner. But when South Africa realized that the Rhodesia situation was unsustainable, they did not hesitate to drop Rhodesia. And I think South Africa's ANC government is coming to the same realization. While one can say that the apartheid regime, at least the Rhodesia situation, benefited the whites as contrast to the blacks, at the expense of the blacks. ANC supporters, ZANU PF, they were supporting the ruling elite at the expense of the majority of black Zimbabweans. Black Zimbabweans. What is the difference? That is one of the tragedies of Africa, that the ruling elite have forgotten that they are black too. And it is therefore pleasing that the ANC government has finally realized that the black ANC leaders, they are, at the end of the day, black too. And what is happening in Zimbabwe is the oppression of fellow blacks by the ZANU PF regime. And I am pleased that finally the penny has dropped and that the ANC government is putting its foot down. Like I said, they should not hesitate to do so just because the opposition in Zimbabwe participate in these flawed elections. We all know that the opposition sold out during the GNU of 2008 to 2013. Credit where credit is due. South Africa's minister, Lindiwe Zulu, did her best to remind Morgan Tsvangirai and company to implement the reforms. But the advice fell on deaf ears. South Africa should not punish the rest of Zimbabweans just to punish MDC leaders. That is not on. Particularly in this case, when the economic collapse of Zimbabwe has had an adverse effect on South Africa itself. If Zimbabwe had continued to prosper as we were doing in 1980 when we gained our independence, I think the whole SADC region would be a much more prosperous world. And economic giants like South Africa itself would be the primary or chief beneficiary of that prosperity. South Africa will not be ashamed to hang on that they have a seat in the G20. But at the present moment, the way the economy is going, I think South Africa's position in the G40 and on the international stage as a whole is threatened. So I can only say that this meeting, and I hope it is true, has come at the right time, and it's about time. And if it is true, I do not see it as a game changer. I see it as game over for ZANU-PF. Ben, do you want to give your closing remarks?
Commenting on the part that we just did, part 4, I think. For long, liberation movements across SADC have been friendly or too friendly with ZANU-PF. When it came to how elections and what to do during elections, the to-go guy was ZANU-PF, because he knows how to win elections, even if people do not like it or not. So they have been always, particularly the ANC. We had, their, I think, spokesperson, Mr. Balula, who kept on saying ZANU-PF was good and so forth, singing praises. Now that the shoe is on another foot, it becomes a problem. South Africa is feeling the pain that ZANU-PF is bestowing upon them through so many migrants that are in their country, and most of them are illegally. Now it becomes an issue, and I don't think it's a matter of debating whether this video is true or not. It is got to be true, because we are living it, we are seeing it. This is why you have people by the gate at the G20 summit, a very, very big event. South Africans are there, and they are saying, we are being punished for Zimbabwe's sins, for Zimbabwe's failure to govern themselves, for ZANU-PF. So it's such a big event. You're trying to show the world that you got your act together. You are a place for good investment and things like that. you wouldn't want to portray this kind of image. And South Africa, for a change, has, you know, taken that hard stance. And not only now, and I believe even right when we had the 2023 elections, just after the 2023 elections, after the report, that extraordinary summit that President MNANGAGWA was called to was a statement to say, like you said, it's not a warning. We've passed warning you. We are going to take action. And make matters worse, you are now going ahead and, you know, disturbing other countries' elections. And I believe ZANU-PF had a hand in Tanzanian elections because we saw shady characters that were also named, and also named by South African officials, you know, that they were scandalous activities that they had with Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. So you put the dots together, you get a somewhat clear picture. ZANU-PF, wherever it has gone and touched, Mozambique, when they went there and befriended, and the next thing was violence, was election fraud and so forth. Tanzania, the same thing. So I don't think they can afford now to keep quiet as SADC, because if you're gonna have somebody that drags the whole region down, you might as well cut that rope and save yourselves. And this is, I think we've gotten to that point where SADC is now trying to show, you know, a better image, to say, you know, we can handle ourselves. We can put our house in order, even if it means sacrificing a once, you know, liberation movement thingy. I think they will do it. And this is a big step. This is something that is very, very positive. But like I said, let us not then be overjoyed, because we ourselves have work to do. We have a 2028 election that is coming up. And participating in that election without any reforms that we were given by SADC and the international community, we are repeating the same mistake, and we will be back playing such videos to no avail. When help has been provided, we should be looking for ways, you know, to also show that we have changed. We want to play a part in making Zimbabwe a better place for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben. I'd just like to remind the listeners out there that if you want to join us, we'll continue discussing this video clip, because I think it is an important one. It is a game changer. And like I said, game over for ZANU-PF. And I think we need to discuss it in greater detail. So if you are free to join us tomorrow, 6 p.m. UK time, 8 p.m. Zimbabwean time, use the link that is shown on the bottom of the screen there. And we'll be looking forward to hearing from you. And for the time being, we'll stop there. Thank you very much, Ben, and thank you very much, Administrator. Good night.